Hi guys, today I'm gonna show you the user interface of the 3ds Max, and this is how it looks when you first open it. Maybe you just see the bunch of buttons here and you get scared a little bit, but there's nothing to be scared of. It's really clear and understandable, and now I'm gonna show you. So this is the perspective view, which we can see the objects in like we see it in real life. For instance, we can draw the teapot here, and as we see it in real life, we can rotate and watch it from different angles. And this is the front side, and because our teapot is facing left or right, I don't know, we don't see the teapot from the front, but we can rotate it 90 degrees. We just type -90, and now we can see the teapot from the front, and this is the left view and this is the top view. And we're gonna use these views when we model things and when we need to move any part of the model with great precision. So we use these views like top, front and left. But this is my personal favorite viewport. I do pretty much anything here, only I address these views when I need to move the special parts, and that's it. Okay, and this is the create panel, and when we create anything we go here and we have a bunch of panels here. This is the create panel when we create things, and here we have a bunch of different types of objects we can create, such as geometry. For instance, we can create a box. We can when we press this button, it gets blue, and it means that we are ready to create a box. And what we need to do is we just press and create our box in any viewport. For instance, if we press here, our box is going to be created on the floor, and when we release the button, and we can adjust the height of the box, and as you see here, when we move our mouse button, the height numbers are decreasing or increasing. We can later, if we want to change the parameters of this box, we can later go to the second tab, which is modify panel, and from this modify panel we're gonna change everything about this model. In order to see the edges of the model, we press F4, and now we see the edges. And for instance, if we can change this length of the model, we can just press to one of these up and down buttons and hold the mouse button down, and then move the mouse up and down to increase and decrease the numbers. Or we just double click here and type, for instance, 5, or click here, press 6, and press here, type, for instance, 12, and it gets higher. We can type the negative numbers too, and when we do the negative numbers, it goes down like underground, but later we can move it to wherever position we want. Okay, and here is the segments, length segments. If for instance we don't have any segments because we have one, and if we increase numbers, as you see, we have extra segments here, and we can add to other parts of the model like height and width. And basically we need these segments if we want, for instance, this part of the model to be extruded or get deleted. I don't know, you can do everything with it. Okay, now we delete this model, press delete. Let's create another models. We have sphere, and if we basically want to change anything about this model, we go to the modify panel, and now we can increase the radius and decrease, and then we have segments, and it's basically the detailization of the sphere. If it's too high, we have really cool sphere, like it's really round. But if we decrease segments, like 20, we see that it's not quite the sphere actually. So we have these buttons called smooth. If we uncheck this button, it's really like consists of flat planes. But if we want to be smooth, we just press this smooth button. Okay, and we have a bunch of other options like hemisphere. We can cut the up and down of this sphere, or we can just slice. It's like a pie chart or anything else. Okay, you got the idea. You just do your experiments yourself with these options and see what you can achieve. Okay, then we have cylinder. It's just the same. We have segments. We have cap segments like these here. And we have torus. It's basically primitives. We can create something out of these, but it's not quite the model. We just prototype with this. Okay, and we have geosphere. It's different from the sphere. It's like more like a globe, and it's more like a, I don't know, it consists of a bunch of triangles. Then we have, let's create all of this in order for you to see. Let's decrease the segments. Then we have conus. You can adjust it like this. We have tube, something like this. We have just normal cylinder. We have torus. We have pyramid. We have teapot. We have just plane, and we have text plus. And we're going to talk about this later, so let's skip it. So these are the primitives, and now let's learn how to move them. Okay, so when you press select any of objects, you just press on it and you see there's this kind of arrows created on this, and these are basically to help you to move this object. For instance, and we have the letters on it. We have X on this red arrow, and it means that we can move it through the x-axis, and it basically shows us where is the x-axis. And we have y-axis and we have z-axis. So if we bring our mouse close to this arrow, we see that it's get highlighted by yellow, and when we press, we can move it only through the y-axis. And if we even move our mouse like this, it won't go this way because we highlighted only the y-axis. And basically the Macs understand that you want to move it only with the y-axis. And if you want to move it through the x-axis, and you bring the mouse and you see it highlighted yellow, and you understand that Macs will move it only with x-axis. So you press the mouse, and even if we move our mouse like this, our object will move only with the x-axis. And the same with the z-axis, and it goes up and down, and only up and down, not right or left or something. For instance, if you want your model to go back where it started, you just press right click and it goes right where it started. Okay, and for instance, if we want to move our model like with two axes, we just bring your mouse where this two axes connects, and you see it gets yellow, and now you can move it on the ground, like on the floor. The same with this. If you want it to move up and down and right and left, you just select this yellow and you can move it through this like this. And the same with this, you just select these two axes, make sure that all of these two arrows are highlighted like yellow, and now you can move it like this. Okay, now let's go to rotation, and basically when you start you have this move button selected, and if you want to rotate you just press this rotate, select and rotate button. Now when you select any object we have like circles around this object, and it's basically the same with the move. When you see this yellow, it means that we can move it on, we can rotate it only this way. And if you see yellow highlighted this axis, it means we can rotate our object only this way. And the same with this red axis. And if you want to know which color is what axis, you can watch here. We have red X, green Y, and blue Z. So it means this blue is Z axis, this is green Y axis, and the red is X axis. Okay, basically we can move it everything everywhere we want. Okay, and if we want to select two objects and rotate them or move them, we just click our first object, then we press Ctrl and click to our second object. For instance, if I want to select this one, let's press it, and basically you see this rotate gizmo now moved into the middle of these two objects. Now we can rotate it, and we can rotate both objects. Good. Okay, now what we need to do is we scale. Let me show you how to scale objects, and press this button, and it's basically the same with other move and rotate things. With selecting this, with highlighting this X axis, we can scale it only like this, and if we select this arrow we can scale it only through the Y axis, and the same with X axis, Z axis. And if you want it to scale it uniformly, we just make sure that all these axes are selected, highlighted, and we bring our mouse to the center of this triangle, and we now scale it uniformly, like make it bigger or make it smaller. The same with other objects. We can make like this, we can squash it, we can stretch it, we can do anything, pretty much anything. Okay, we just can't scale the plane like this because it doesn't have any thickness, and if we manage to create a thickness of this plane we can scale it, but we can still scale it like this. Okay, now let me show you what we can do with what we know. For instance, let's create a table from the primitive. We can select these two, like we don't need to press Ctrl and select all these objects one by one. We can press and drag, and everything inside of this rectangle will be selected. So select all the objects and press delete. Now let's create a little chair, for instance. Okay, let's press box and start creating box on the ground. Like press and drag, make something like rectangle, and release the button and adjust the height. Okay, now press move and move it up. Okay, now let's create cylinder and adjust the height. Okay, and as you see it goes higher than our box. Now we want to adjust it. We go back to the modify panel, we decrease the height segments, we don't need extra segments here, we decrease the radius. Okay, and we adjust the height, we move it down, and it's okay. Good. Now we go to the top view. Let's get rid of these segments here, like cap segments. We make it 1. Okay, now move it from the top view to the side. Okay, now we need 3 more cylinders, and we don't need to create again and again, we just need to copy. So press shift button and move it to the right, and release the mouse button. And as you see, we have one dialog box come out, and we need to select copy. And here we have number of copies. If we type, for instance, 3, we'll have 3 extra copies, so we need extra 3 copies. Press OK, and as you see, we have 3 cylinders. We just select these 2 and move it to this place. And as you see, I didn't do like this and this. I just select this button and both arrows are highlighted, and I can move it like this, and I bring it here, and I know that it won't go up because we selected the Y and X axis. Okay, now we have nice little chair, and what we need to do is create this spine holder for this, and let's press Shift and drag it up to duplicate it and choose copy. Press OK. Now let's rotate it like this and press you can select move rotate scale either from here, or you can press right click and choose move, and then move your object like this. You can make it a little bit inside of this box, and it's okay because we don't see it. So we have nice small chair from the primitives that we saw before. For instance, let's create this, and we also have many sub menus here like create panel, geometry, and here we have standard primitives, and these standard primitives are these objects. And we have, for instance, extended primitives, compound objects. We're gonna learn all this one by one, but it's not for the first time. So let's go to the extended primitives and see what we have there. For instance, we have simple box in the standard primitives, and from the in the extended primitives we have like chamfer box, and it's basically the same, but the edges are not rough like this. So select this and press and drag and release, adjust the height, and then you have extra feature like how round the edges are. Press like this, and you can change it later. If you want to work only with one viewport, press Alt and W, or you can press this button, maximize viewport toggle. You can press Alt W, make it smaller. You can press Alt W again, make it bigger. Okay, now we can adjust the length, height, and width as with the simple box, but we have one extra feature here which controls the roundness of the edges, and with the round edges it looks more cool. We can make it bigger, and we can adjust the segments so it looks like much better. We can increase the segments, and you may ask why we don't increase all the segments all the way up and it looks much better. And you're right, it looks much better, but when we have too much segments here, the computer may have run out the memory. So the first advice to you, try to make less polygons as you can. And now if you want to count how many polygons you have, you just press 7, and you see we right now have 2820 polygons and 1424 vertices. And with increasing these segments, you also increase the number of these polygons, and the more polygons you have in the scene, more RAM you're gonna consume. That's why it's always the good idea to check your polygon size, polygon count. Okay, now let's create the sofa from these chamfer boxes. So let's make it like this, make it like this, and make it longer. Okay, now let's press Shift and move it up to duplicate, press copy, and let's decrease the length. Let's move it to the left, and let's press shift and move it to the right. Okay, and let's move it to the left a little bit and adjust this length so that it aligns with these upper objects. Now let's press this one and press rotate, and press shift and rotate so that it gets duplicated like this. Press copy, and now choose move and move it like this, and in order to rotate your viewport, we just press Alt and middle mouse button, or you can move it like this. Press this button, orbit selected, and we have this circle here, and by pressing inside of this circle we can rotate it without pressing any Alt or any other button. We just press like this, and when we want to pan our view like this, we just press mouse button, middle mouse button. And if you don't want to do this, you just select this hand button and you just do it like this by pressing left mouse button. Okay, now let's select this object and press rotate, and press shift and rotate like this, and choose OK. Now let's move it to the right and make it a little bit lower, and make it like this, bigger. So let's decrease the height, let's move it down, let's make it bigger in this way. We can do it scale with the scale, but if we have numbers here, I don't advise you to scale because it gets stretched. So let's move it like this and to the right. Okay, and let's press shift and move it to the left to copy, and press OK. And now, as you see, we have nice sofa, nice modern sofa we created from these primitives. And it's basically, we started learning Max not more than half an hour, so it's really easy. You can practice yourself to create all these objects and see what you can do yourself. Okay, now we have nice sofa from these primitives. We can select all this and move it like this, rotate it like this, but we have 6 objects here. If we want to make it one object, we just go to the group menu and press group and type the name of the group, and I'm gonna type the sofa. Press OK. Now the Max considers this as one object and its group. We don't need to select all this, we just press on it and it gets selected. Let's do the same with this chair. Press group and type the chair. Okay, now we can scale it all together and move it like this and rotate it like this. So you get the idea. You just experiment with yourself with these objects. Actually, I don't advise you to go all the way down through these objects because you might not have some of them, because for instance this is the corona, you probably have this because it's the plugin, and this is 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 the plugins. So you basically have only a few of these, and it's not a problem. So next lesson I'm gonna show you much more different things you can do with 3ds Max. So see you guys, bye.